things. I'm extremely easily distracted, as you will notice, and I love to join the dots between the most obscure, bizarre things that are happening. So this talk is all sorts of dots that I'm trying to join. They may not be joined yet, but I'm moving my way towards it. I'm hoping that you'll find a way to join those dots as well. And if not, throw away what you don't want, use what you can, use the rest. Okay, are we happy with that as a kind of a sort of way? So I want to know from you, who's been to the Standard Bank Art Gallery to see a black aesthetic? Tut, tut, tut. One fabulous person. So really what a black aesthetic is about, and I would urge you all to go and see it, given the work that you do. It features, as Puleng has said, 3 decades of black artists. And most of those works are drawn from the University of Fort Hare, which is really quite unusual because we didn't even understand the size of the collection. And then there's some that was drawn from the JAG, the University, not the JAG, the Johannesburg Art Gallery. So one of our WITS alumni, Dr. Sama Mdluli, curated it. And the important thing is that she opened it just prior to Human Rights Month. And that's really what I want to focus on, is this month that we are in, and what we, as a collective, can do, both individually, but as a community as well. So, what's interesting about that, and I'm sure Puleng really had to scratch in her mind, this is what she would say. Admit it, Puleng, you would say what I'm about to say, just agree. Is that it's a very interesting exhibition of black artists, and it does 2 things. It creates an experience which positions historic narrative, and at the same time, it reminds us of the present as South Africans, what our purpose, our right to human dignity, regardless of gender, race, generation, and nationality is. So it has the ability to look at history and bring it forward into the present. And this is something that I'm really interested in, obviously because of my new job. I mean, I have to go back and look at a constitution that was built in 1996 and we question, does it still have value? Why does it have value? What would happen to something like that in 100 years' time? So what do we mean when we talk to the past, the present, and the future? So it takes great courage, I believe, to go back to our Bill of Rights and then to think about what our individual accountability is and what our meaning and our coherence in the world is. It's been described by a poet called Jane Hirschfield as the tension between self and the world. And that is something that you guys work with all the time, this idea of who I am as a self, as an individual, but how I am interacting in the world as well. So, in the exhibition, and this is the first picture in that group that you saw, there's this most beautiful work by Gerard Sokoto, which is called Mind Boy. I'm not sure if anybody has seen it before in the past, but it is one of the most beautiful works as far as I'm concerned. That picture tells us something about who we are today, and also it asks us, who do we want to be in the future? Do we want to be that? What is it about that that we would like to keep? Is it the intimacy we'd like to keep? We certainly don't want to say that everybody's living with candles. Is it that you only have Bible and a book? The fact that you have Mind Boy is an extraordinary book to be reading at a time when potentially you are working in a mine yourself. So it has all these kind of things. There's an artist called Mabato Monsho. I'm not sure, some of you all nodding, yeah. Now Mabato Monsho has referred back to this incredible picture, and she's created an incredibly moving work. You'll see it, it's the third picture there, or the second picture there. And it's called Sokoto. She recently exhibited appropriately at the Women's Jail in Constitution Hill. And in that referencing Sokoto, she references and joins this thing that I'm interested in, this ecosystem, the joining of the dots of the past and the present, and engaging the ecosystem of history and present. So why does this intrigue me? I suppose it intrigues me because we see a lot of stuff about saying that history doesn't count. More and more and more, there's a resistance to history because it is perceived to be within a vacuum on the side. But actually history is now. So I don't know if anybody knows the author Eckhart Tolle. Very kind of, but he writes in a book called The Power of Now, and he talks of the importance of living in the now. And he says that the past has no power over the present moment. Now, I do endorse that we need to live in the present, and we have to live in the now. Because if we live in the past, we will never be able to move towards the future. But if we live in the future, we will never be able to live in the now. Does that make sense? If we live in the past, we will never ever be able to live in, what did I say? It confuses even me, but you got it. You guys are academics, you know me. It's hard. So, but what I do think is important, yes, we need to live in the present, but it's important that we start to focus on the narratives of the future, of the past, and understand how they do impact our present, and how they do have the power to shift and change how we engage with our present purpose. So in much the way that I'm saying, look at those pictures, what you can see with Babato's image is she's saying exactly that. She's saying, wow, this is a picture of the past, but it's also a picture of now. It talks to loss, it talks to belonging, it talks to not belonging, it talks to access, it talks to lack of access, it talks to lack of agency and potential agency simply by the nature that he has a book there that he's reading which talks to who we are as South Africans. So these are human and historical stories, and why they're important to us? Because they unlock our empathy. Empathy is different to sympathy. You all know the difference, I'm sure. And what is absolutely crucial, and I'm going to remind us of that word again, empathy. We have forgotten as South Africans what it means to be empathetic. We easily watch images of violence with absolutely no sense of pain, of the trauma of the person. We watch it physically in real life. We watch it on our cell phones. I mean, the images of what's it called, Christchurch alone, just in the last few days, shooting around all over. It starts to cut away at your empathy. And we need to start getting back to who we are and what our empathy means. And these are the stories that can tell us that. They also unlock engagement and conversation. And you are the warriors who do that. You are the storytellers, the authors, the narrators, the artists, the journalists, the thought leaders, the griots. You are the people who remind us of what our human rights really are and what our empathy really should be. And right now, we need to go back to that.